Greetings, my name is Michael Recalma, Chief of the Qualicum First Nation. I would like to respectfully acknowledge the fact that I'm standing on the unceded territory of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish First Nation. I do have ties to the Musqueam First Nation through my mother, Margaret Recalma. Welcome to this special episode of Kidney Plugged In.
Two years ago, we brought you the story of Chief Recalma and his journey with kidney disease. In our last interview, the Chief opened up about his challenges after his diagnosis in 2018.
While I was in St. Paul's, the one thing that still makes people wonder, I lost my vision. I went blind.
And his experiences on dialysis.
It was told to me by a nurse. She said, think about your kidneys, Michael, all day, all night, what they do for you. And she goes, what we're doing to you in 4 hours, your kidneys do all day and all night. Because I would come out of there exhausted. I was just beat. But that was why. I couldn't understand it, why I felt like this. Like, why am I I'm just lying here in a bed for 4 hours. Why am I so tired? And why am I just so exhausted? Because that's when she said it's 4 hours of kidney work, cleaning your blood.
All the while, though, he kept his sense of humor and was always willing to share some words of wisdom.
Eagle feathers are very powerful to us. Eagle's a very powerful bird. And this particular feather was presented to me by the now mayor of Qualicum Beach.
Previously, he also talked about being on the transplant waitlist and how he was actively searching for a kidney donor. Today, we are sitting down with the Chief again and his wife Sharon, his chief caregiver and co-pilot on his kidney journey, as they have an update on his story. Chief Recalma, you look fantastic. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling like I'm 50 years old again. It's just amazing. The transformation was, I can't explain it, how the energy level went up, how much better I feel. You know, the appetite's better, the weight gain is great, almost too great. But I mean, it's the feeling of the energy boost that really, I guess, surprised me, how fast that happened. And just, there's the only way I could put it. The way that, the transformation that happened so quickly thereafter.
That's amazing. It's like going back, like you said, going back 10 years. So there's so much we can do now. There's so many things. We can look forward to doing stuff. We can go and visit our son without having to go, what day is dialysis? If we leave this time, we can be down there and at this time, and we have to race back for dialysis at this time. And, not having to do that is just, it's so different.
I want to go back to the day that you received the call. Can you talk a bit about how you were feeling?
On that day, I was in the office at 8 o'clock, and it was 8:15 I got the call. I was outside with some of the workers, and I recognized the number as St. Paul's, so I just said to her, I've got to get to a quieter room. And I went into the boardroom, and she proceeded to tell me that my transplant date is set. I have a living donor. It's set for February 28th, and I'm to be in Vancouver on February the 24th. I sat there stunned. Didn't know what to say, didn't know what to do. So there was a young lady in the office with me. So I'm sitting there with the phone in my phone in my hand. And I said to Trilena, I said, could you please phone my wife? I need her to come down here. So she came back later, she goes, she's not answering. So I just said, well, I'll just go home. And then so away I went. And so I go into the, Sharon was in the bedroom at that point in time. And then so I just blurted out, I got the call. And what do you say after that? It's look at her face, and mine, I bet, would just shock still still shock the fact that, you know, it's happening. It's going to happen, February the 28th.
It was a stunned silence. I think it's the first time I was ever quiet. It was just, I was speechless. There was no words, you know, you just wanted to shout hooray and jump up and down. And I think actually maybe we even did at one point, because it's just, there's no words to explain when you get that call. You know, you're waiting for it. And sometimes you think it might not happen too soon. And then there it is, you know, there's that call.
And then you start thinking about things you have to do, I have to do, we have to do to prepare for departure on February the 24th. There's not a lot of time, but you know, we've got to just get things going.
Of course, the packing. What do you take with us? You're going to be gone for 2 months and it's still winter. It was really cold and wintry, and making sure all your paperwork, your representation agreement, your wills, all of that needed to be updated and ready to go. Thank goodness the lawyer was, when I phoned the lawyer and said, okay, we don't have 6 weeks, we have 6 days now, it's got to be done. He got on it right away for us, and just making sure we had even accommodation, making sure that was set up, and transportation over from the island. There's all these little things that you don't think about until you're hit with, how do we get over to Vancouver? Are we flying? Are we driving? Are we bringing the car? You know, if we bring the car, then parking is how much a day, and all these other little things that go on.
It's going to happen.
I want to take you back a bit now. Can you just talk a little bit about how you found out who your donor was?
I just left people to their own avails. If they so chose to try to be a match, of course, the first step was always get your blood checked to see what type you are. And you know, some people just, of course, they didn't know their blood type. And the same thing, I agree with that, because had somebody asked me 4 or 5 years ago, which blood type, I would have said red. I didn't know, it didn't matter. But you know, now I know. And so as time went on, people would tell me they were going to try. And well, you know, either they were wrong blood type, or for whatever reason they didn't make it. They washed out somewhere along the line. But when it came time for the call, I knew there was 2 people very close to the end of that journey to become a donor. It was Scott and a lady. So I didn't know which one it was, because the lady from St. Paul said it's up to the donor to contact you or not. So I didn't know. Scott didn't phone us for a few days. He said, oh, by the way, it's me. So we had communicated over time about how he was doing in the process until I knew he was close to the end to find out that he would be a viable match.
Can you talk about what that call was like when you talked to Scott?
That feels like, again, you're humbled by it. And I tell people, I've said it many, many times, it's a gift of life, and it's a gift for life. He's my forever friend now. Yeah, we're political friends anyway, but it just changed the whole concept of our relationship when he decided to say, okay, I'm an O positive and I can donate to you.
So he feels like family.
Does. He became family. We share an organ now. Well, actually, he shares it, not me.
So you were describing a very special ceremony that took place earlier. We're going to call it the airport event. Can you talk a little bit about that?
The community knew the departure date and the time. So there was people invited to the send-off, shall we say, that I had invited and Scott had invited. And it turned out to be a very large send-off. My nephrologist was there, and Sharon, obviously, but also my social worker. People that were, helped me through my journey. I mean, the nephrologist saved my life in the beginning. And then I said at the ceremony that the social worker saved my head. But what the community did was the council members wrapped us in blankets. They called it to blanket us. And then there was a song sang for us to send us off in a good way. But the blanketing is so the ancestors would look after us through our journey. The song was from Squamish. My nephew sang it, and but there was the blanket and a feather. We were each given an eagle feather, beaded eagle feather from each one of the council members, because eagles are a sign of strength, correct? So it was the whole ceremony was done in a circle. And again, the circle just signifies there's nobody's in front, nobody's behind. We all face in. And when the work is done, that's what we call it, we just accepted all of the gratitude from the community members.
I think I had tears running down my eyes, because you don't realize how blessed you are with friends until something like that happens. And the people that did, I knew that there was going to be more people there than Michael knew, because I'd heard that there was going to be some extra people there. I didn't realize there was going to be as many people there as there were. So it was really just to know that you've got that many friends that you can call on for help or support or whatever you need. It's just a blessing.
So I understand that nobody else was on the plane. So talk about that. What did that mean?
When I booked, because we found out that Scott was going on HQ Air, and he had booked his flight for that day. So I said, Sharon, we should go on the same flight. So I booked 2 seats, and then I just happened to say to the young lady that took the call, I said, just so Tara knows, I said, this is a kidney flight. I said, Scott Harrison, who was on the flight, well, I know that's where we're going. He's the donor, and I am the recipient of his kidney. And Sharon is going to look after me in Vancouver. So I was contacted again the next day, and I was told that the plane is ours. It's nobody else is going to go on it. It's your flight to Vancouver for the 3 of you. Kidney flight. This is all done for no exposure to anybody else, for COVID safety. She booked the whole flight. Well, no more bookings that day for that particular flight, and she was more than happy to get us there. We got to South Terminal, and they had a little shuttle van, and they took us right from South Terminal to our hotel downtown.
So now let's talk about the transplant.
First order of business was COVID test to make sure that I was fine. Then from there went more blood work. And what I found out they did was mix our blood to find out if there was anything would happen in the match, because of course our blood will now be mixed. And that was step 1. And then it was just a matter of, okay, then you wait for the results and you go back to your hotel room and wait. And just again, this is another nerve-wracking procedure that has got to be done.
I understand you had 2 wishes. Can you talk about those two wishes?
About a year ago, I got a call from the transplant nephrologist, and he said, Michael, if you got a wish, what would it be? So I sat there for a second, and I went, I'm going to be greedy. I want 2 wishes. Okay, what are they? I said, I want a kidney, and I want it transplanted the same day, the day I failed. And I got them both within 2 weeks.
How do we explain that?
Somebody's looking after me. Creator.
What else is happening leading up to the transplant? Were you scared?
No. Anxious. There's a difference. I'm not sure I know what's going to happen, but I don't know how it's going to happen. I know the day it's going to happen. I found out the time I'm to be in the hospital, and we also found out that Scott's to be there hours before me, because of course, the first step is take his kidney out, and then there's no sense having me there opened with the kidney not even come out yet. So you just kind of bide your time and just, you know, what we did was we hung out with Scott and his sister, and then our son came over, and then I went for my last dialysis on the Sunday before transplant, which was the last one. And that was nice to know that I walked out of that dialysis clinic going, I'm not coming back. It saved my life, you know, over and over and over again, but we're done. It's time to turn the page on that chapter. We're moving on, and it's going to start tomorrow.
And what about you, Sharon? How are you feeling?
Anxious. Anxious that something would call it off at the last minute. Because until it's done, it's not, you know, there's always the chance that something could happen that it's not going to get done. So I think for me, that was the big thing, was just the waiting and the anxiousness of having it happen. And because of COVID, our son couldn't come into the hospital and sit with us, and there was, you know, there was the little things that are a little bit different because of COVID. So yeah, and that made it a little bit more anxious too, as well.
So you're being rolled into surgery. The emotions must be high. What's going through your head as that's happening?
I was sleeping. I was having a nap, but I'm guessing it was about 5 or 6 hours. And I remember them waking me up. I think it was about 11 o'clock at night. And the whoever, I don't know if it was a doctor, who it was, but I'm all groggy, and he said, I have your wife on the phone here. So would you want to talk to her? I said, oh, well, I have to. And so I started talking, because he had said, we're taking him back up to his room soon. So we chatted. I don't even know what I said, couldn't tell you. And so then it was up to my room I went, and I, you know, again, just fell back asleep again. And I was like, where am I now? Because I remember going into the OR, I remember putting the arm board on me, and then all of a sudden, I'm back in my room. I don't know, they got me.
How are you feeling?
Tired, and a little bit sore. Not even sore, uncomfortable, because I'm going, oh, bandages, you know, just zip strips. It's over, it's done. You know, now there's no turning back on, like I said, now the page is turned. Now we're changing our life path again for, I don't know, the better was still, dialysis was still better than dying, but now we're changing the path again to a life without dialysis.
So how long before you got to see Scott after your transplant surgery?
I think
It was about 3 days.
3 days. He was next door, but he just kept to himself, and that's what he wanted.
So what was that first meeting like between you and Scott?
The first meeting was, we just kind of looked at each other, and so I remember just saying, thank you. And he says, I'd have done it anyway. He said more than once, he goes, I have a great deal of respect for you. And he goes, that's why I did it. I've always had an admiration for the work you do and you just as a person. Once he started doing his journey through the transplant process, he goes, I'm not turning back until something happens or not.
So right now, so your world has opened up a little bit. Things that you couldn't eat before, you now can eat. What are some of the favorite things that are now back on the menu for you?
That I could eat? Bananas, tomatoes. So in other words, I had a pizza because of tomato sauce. And we did that. We went down to a pizzeria and got a pizza made, and it was delicious. After 4 years, nice. I missed it.
What else has changed in life?
Energy level. I'm supposed to walk for 3 to 4K a day, and on a normal day I'll do maybe 5 or 6, and on a really good day I'll do up to 10 or 12. And the doctor went, what? And I went, 12K, just walk around town. So, but that's nice to have that much of energy. And I always remember that we talk about energy. I remember my last day of dialysis, we're walking back and I had to stop probably halfway up and lean on a building to have a break. And then I had to get Francis, my son, I said, hey, you better take my arm and kind of pull start me here. One of my goals was to not use that little elevator to walk up those 8 stairs. And as time went on, I did it. And then now I just don't. Away I go. But again, these little goals that I made for myself were just I had to do it. I wanted to do it.
Meal planning is much easier, much easier. The first couple of weeks after surgery, he had to eat 9 ounces of protein a day, so that was a bit challenging, and red meat was out still. But once he got over that hump, then we found a butcher in Yaletown, and we had grass-fed beef at $20 a pound, and it was so good. And we can eat out a little bit more. We don't have to sort of take into account which restaurants have what food. So we've been, and we're sort of on vacation here because we're not home. It'll change when we get home again, too. We won't be hitting up the bakery every night.
Now, speaking of dinners, you mentioned just before you went into surgery, or I guess the night before you were in surgery, you had a special dinner with Scott.
Both Scott and Michael were on sort of almost a liquid diet. So we got them their takeout soup, and our son and his wife were there, and Scott's sister was there. So we're all sort of crammed into our room, having takeout dinners and having a family meal, and just having a lot of fun and laughter, and yeah. It was a good night.
Yeah, you've gone from soup to steak.
Soup to steak.
Soup to steak, yes.
Yeah.
And now 4 years into this journey, there have been some tough times along the way.
Oh, yes. When we're in Vancouver, for the 2 months we've been here for, I would allow them to think back in time. And I think back to the number of days, evenings that turned into days, that turned into weeks, that turned into months over the 4-year period that Sharon sat in, either in an ER with me or urgent care, or sometimes during the height of COVID in the parking lot while I'm in Emerge. And, because I'm sick, so I'm taking no conscious effort of what's going on other than going, I'm not well. But when I got time to reflect, I think back to how well you look after me.
And Sharon, we've talked about your role as a caregiver and all the support that you've given. This has been a journey for you too.
It's not a journey that you could take on your own easily. It really isn't. I think you need that support.
There's so many other people out there that are in a very similar situation. You both have been so optimistic and hopeful throughout this process. Can you talk about that and any words of inspiration that you might give to others in a similar situation? How did both of you keep your hope and your spirits up during this time?
A lot of inner strength, support, community support from many, many places. But my biggest thing that I relied on and knew, the fact that I never give up faith, I never give up hope. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. And it was just a matter of time. But I would tell somebody going, don't ever give up. I'm thinking that once you give up, you might be, what's left? What's left? And as long as you keep that hope up, knowing that it's, people are trying, people are there for you. And again, a support system of any kind that you so choose to utilize. You know, mine was everywhere.
Well, I just want to say congratulations, and you both are an inspiration. And on behalf of the Kidney Foundation, we wish you both the very best, and we look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, it's been a journey, and like I said, just anybody that's out there, never give up. Never give up. There were many people to thank during this journey I've been on for the last 4 years, starting with my wife, Sharon, who insisted I go to the community health nurse that morning of February 28th, 2018. And I would also thank Debbie Heath for calling the ambulance because my blood pressure was very, very high. I would like to thank BC Ambulance Service for getting me to Nanaimo that day, and they took me more than once to NRGH. I would also like to thank the emergency room staff in NRGH, the nephrology staff, who all helped to diagnose me at that point in time, the renal unit for helping us through PD, and all of the community dialysis units, starting with NRGH, where I began, and then the Nanaimo community, Port Alberni community, Cumberland community dialysis units, my family, friends and family, for those who tried to see if they could help me with a kidney, and for Scott Harrison, who did give me a kidney, St. Paul's Hospital, for the great care I got here right through my stay in here, from the pre-transplant, transplant, post-transplant, the whole care I've gotten from them has just been fantastic. Thank you all.